we have created for Career Center staff use, for other programs, youth programs, adult programs that are doing WIOA and ITAs. So the first things first, I do want to go through it because processing the ITA will be new for you all, but entering the services in Alabama Works is exactly the same because every time you provide a service to your participants, you're entering it into Alabama Works. So that part will be the same. This desk aid, it breaks down important things that are needed in order for ITAs to either be approved or denied, whether it's based off of suitability, eligibility, or funding. So I want to go through this, and then I did make some notes to kind of add into the discussion while going through this form. And then I'm going to also show you some forms that's used to either submit ITA requests, terminate the services, whether it's successful or unsuccessful, or to make changes. So I will show you all that as well. All right, so the first form here, this again, it is the desk aid, and it gives you how individuals can apply. So if you're recruiting, you can print this out, and this is located in Staff Online Resources under WIOA. I'm sorry, ITA. So you can print this out because it has a QR code. If it's scanned, it takes participants directly to Alabama Works where they can create an account if they do not have one. So the first is the eligibility and requirements. Again, you all know eligibility because you're doing it now. This here is just another step into providing services for your participants. But for WIOA, applicants must be WIOA eligible and suitable and in need of training. The first thing with that is WIOA does not offer career changes. Again, we know some of the youth, this might be their first time and they haven't met that step to where they formally have a career. But for adults, we do see a lot of individuals that have worked in a career field for numerous amount of years and then just say, hey, I want to change because I want to do something else. WIOA is for individuals with no or low marketable job skills. And so therefore that narrowed down the category because everybody that may be WIOA eligible may not be WIOA suitable. So suitability comes into play a lot when requesting ITA funding for individuals, because again, it is for those individuals that need training in order to start their career field. Applicants with in-demand occupational skills are not suitable. So with that one, if they're already in a field, maybe if they're in nursing, or in welding and say, oh, well, now I want to be a truck driver. They already have in-demand skills. And again, that goes into changing a career field, which WIOA ITA funding does not allow. For ITA funding, if a participant is going through the process to receive funding and they start training before you as their case manager receives the approved email from the ITA department here, their funding will be forfeited. Participants cannot start training before they have received the approval. And with that, it goes into ITA requests should be sent into the ITA email at least 2 weeks before their start date. And this is, statewide. We do get requests sometimes if it's a semester-based participant and they're getting their grades late, they do have to submit a request to us to see if it is okay to send it. The reason for the 2-week time frame is because a lot of times the individuals that process those requests may be out of the office due to whatever reason, maybe training or maybe unavailable. So we want to make sure we have enough time to process that request for that participant so that it is submitted to the case manager in an ample amount of time so the case manager can forward that over to the provider. Participants must be enrolled in an occupational specific program leading to job readiness. And with that, participants are required to look at, well, funding is based off of programs that are listed on ETPL, the Eligible Training Providers List. If that program is not on ETPL, we cannot provide funding for it. If that program says, well, I am trying to get on ETPL, please do not send an ITA request in for that participant or that program until that program has been deemed approved to be on ETPL. Providers have several steps that they have to go through in order for that program to be approved. So we just try to let everyone know if it's not on ETPL, WIOA ITA funding cannot be issued for that program. Right above that, individuals with an associate degree or higher are ineligible. Now with that, we try to make sure that it goes into alignment with individuals that are in need of training. Some cases we have seen participants that may have a degree that is older and not current or may need certifications in order to help them with that degree. In situations like that, we do ask that you email the ITA, and I haven't mentioned it, but the ITA email is ita@commerce.alabama.gov, just like youth at commerce.alabama.gov. So it's ita@commerce.alabama.gov. And everything goes through it. Multiple people have access to that ITA email folder. So don't ever think that if something is sent, it won't be seen. It is always seen. But if you have a question regarding individuals that may have a degree or a current certification, email us first before you go through the process of the requirements that are needed in order to secure funding for an ITA. And that's simply because it won't waste the participant's time or your time if it is determined that that participant is ineligible to receive funding. So we want to make sure that the answer is known up front instead of when it's sent to us and we have to deny that ITA request for any reason. The last part with the eligibility and requirements, participants that go for long-term programs, whether it is the nursing program, there are some long-term welding programs. The programs are generally specific to areas. The community colleges and some of the private providers, have programs, that are need-based for that area. But for the programs that are considered long-term, and long-term under ITA standards are 52 to 104 weeks. Those programs, the first 2 semesters must be self-funded for the participant. For ITAs, we can only cover up to the last 4 semesters. So if it is a 6-semester program total, the first 2 would be funded by the participant, and then ITA funding could cover up to the last 4. And then it has not to exceed allowable cost categories. And that's just saying, depending on the length of the program, costs cannot exceed that amount. So if this, and I use nursing a lot because it kind of goes into the breakdown for this. So if this is a nursing program and they have 4 semesters left, that cost category amount that they cannot exceed is $12,000. With that, we do require that participants submit to the case managers, which is uploaded into Alabama Works, and we review it. They have to submit their cost breakdown for the semester, and we can only pay for occupational skill courses only. So no prereqs, no history, no English courses, math courses. We only pay for the occupational skill programs that are tied to receiving that degree. Most providers know this by now. This has been implemented for going on a year, so they are familiar. So if there's any reason where you are requesting a cost breakdown for a long-term program and they don't want to provide that occupational skills breakdown, please let us know. That way contact can be made so that that information can be provided. Also, with that, participants are required to apply for Pell Grant for those quote unquote long-term programs. Because ITAs cover tuition and fees associated with the program, that participants' Pell will have to cover their books and any tools. Some situations, participants may not be eligible. That information has to be uploaded also, whether their Pell is approved or denied. We review that information also. So if you do, have a participant for whatever reason, and they're not Pell eligible, let them know that that information is reviewed. A lot of times with youth, their parents might be over income. So that does have a factor into the Pell application and the ITA approval as well. I'm looking at my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything, the main things. So on to before we go to the next one, did you all have any questions on the eligibility and requirements part before I go down to the next section?
I think I just have one question. So if they, so if they have already drawn from a Pell Grant or received from a Pell Grant in the past and they want to do an ITA account, I'm assuming they would be ineligible because of the previous draw from the Pell Grant?
Well, not necessarily, because they might have Pell still available. Now, if they use that Pell and they've gotten a degree, or then we have to look into the type of degree, the length of, when they received it. Then we have to go more into depth. Sometimes you might find a youth that started school and for whatever life situation had to stop, and now they're back. They may still be Pell eligible. So if they use some, that does not automatically qualify them. It is if they've received a credential from using that Pell, then that's what we have to look at.
Okay.
All right, so now we're going to go down to the next section. And I know I talked about Pell a lot here. At the bottom, it's kind of here again. So if I go through it again, it will be short snippets because I've kind of, expanded on it a lot, but it is on this form again. The next is the pre-registration and skill assessment. We know all of your participants take the TABE. And that's still a requirement for eligibility, but it is also a requirement for receiving ITA funding. So listed here is a breakdown of how we use the TABE locators to determine the process of the ITA eligibility. Short-term programs, 6 months or less, require a D level. Participants that are interested in truck driving, that is the only program that the TABE locator level is acceptable to be on the M level. Any other program, they have to be at a level A or a level D. And with short-term participants that are wanting to go into the truck driving program, they do have to have their uh, DOT physical, their motor vehicle report, their drug screening, and their CDL permit. That documentation has to be uploaded into Alabama Works before the ITA request is sent. Because we do verify that information. Well, we do review that information as part of the ITA eligibility slash suitability. Um, for technical programs, 1 year longer, so 52 weeks, they have to have an um, A level, and then medical programs that are less than a year. So like your surgical tech, pharmacy, tech, CNAs, they require a D level. Um, and then more highly technical programs require H level. I'm sorry, A level. So, some HVAC programs that are not um, certificate based, um, nursing, radiology, those do require an A level. Another thing with that, if you have a participant that is currently enrolled and taking their prereqs, their reading and math scores do not equate to the MD or A on the table. Those are totally separate. We've gotten that question before, um, and we had to let them know, unfortunately, that it did not. That was submitted. So please just know that information does not equate to one another. They do have to take that tape and score on that required grade level. Um, Next, with the financial aid and ITA coverage. Excuse me. Like I mentioned before, participants must apply for a Pell Grant um, and provide that award or denial documentation. Um, ITAs are issued on a semester base when it is a long-term program. So at the end of each semester, participants are to provide to you their grades for that semester, their upcoming semester schedule, and that cost breakdown. And then once that is submitted to you, you all will create what's called an amendment. Once I go through this, I will show you all the documents that you all will use to submit to us. I will show you that so that way you can know what it looks like when I'm saying an amendment or termination or fail to report. You all will know what it looks like and how to complete it. Um, Again, on here, it has ITAs cover tuition and occupational specific fees. Other funding must be used to cover prereqs, books, and supplies. And then it has the short-term training, and Pell 9 times out of 10 does not cover our short-term programs that are 26 weeks or less. In that instance, the ITA funding will cover it all. So if it's a live worker program, if it's a CDL program, a CMA, CNA program, ITA funding will cover the cost of that program. And then the last part on here, um, participants are only allowed to receive an ITA once. Um, this is a change from when I first started working in the Career Center. Participants had that cap amount. Um, but here now, things have changed, funding has decreased, so participants are only allowed to receive an ITA once. So like participants, if they're interested, their ultimate goal is to become an RN, but they might want to do a CNA or CMA program before then and want to use WIOA, let them know they can only do it once. So to be mindful and take advantage of the funding opportunities that are available to them. For the ongoing requirements, um, again, ITAs are approved per semester and students must be full-time. Um, with participants in the nursing program, we know sometimes they aren't full-time because of the way the college has broken down their courses. So sometimes they may have one class and a lab, and that's all that that college is offering for that semester. We see a lot because again, we work with a lot of community colleges across the state. So we are kind of aware of how the classes are broken down. Um, but if they're not in one of those type of programs where only certain courses are selected for that term, they must be full time. And again, just reiterating, students must submit their grades, their next semester schedule, and the cost breakdown. The cost breakdown is very important for funding. Each year, our funding is cut more and more. So we want to make sure that we are applying the cost as need-based and trying to assist as many individuals as possible. For post-training expectations, um, graduates should secure employment within 90 days of completing training. Um, and that goes into going into one of those in-demand need-based training programs. For areas where there are not a lot of employment opportunities, we know sometimes finding employment within that 90 days may be hard. But if a participant has not secured employment within the 90 days, we do require them to be contacted and meet with the business service representative to look for on-the-job training enrollment to help them with their employment goals once they've completed training. We have BSRs across the state that work in the Career Center. In Area 5, where you are being, we have 3. But for your area, which is the Selma area, it's Maggie. Maggie Brand is the BSR that covers your area being. So if you ever want to make contact with her, it's Maggie.Brand at we'll send it to you. We'll send it to you. Because with the Area
Okay,
5
perfect.
transition, a lot of things change. And starting Friday, things will kind of go back to the way they were with Area 5. But again, for BBWI, you will be able to process your own ITAs. Okay, so Maggie's is maggie.brand@commerce.alabama.gov.
Is that
All right.
BRAN?
BRAND.
Gotcha.
All right. All right. So before we go over the documents, did you all have any other questions on any of this information? And I know it may sound like a lot, but I promise you this desk aid is so helpful because it kind of it does break down the yays and the nays of ITA funding.
I have 2 quick questions.
Okay.
One would be for the CDL. I know that, all those things that you wanted. The only thing that I had a question about is the DOT drug screen. I know usually those ITA providers want them within around 2 weeks of them starting classes, but I know when I had previously spoken to like Kay Matthews, she wanted everything at least 2 weeks before already submitted and uploaded to Alabama Work. So where does that kind of land?
It's supposed to be 2 weeks. Yeah, it's still the same at the 2 weeks. Now we've had some career center personnel that'll say, hey, I'm waiting on their drug screening results. If that's the case, just send an email to the ITA email, say, hey, I'm waiting on their results. Is it okay to submit the request when I receive it? And that might be, within a week's time frame. We just strongly ask that it's not a day or two before they're supposed to start. Because nobody outside of this office knows what the ITA unit has going on or what's scheduled. So you never want to run the risk of it down to that day. I had someone send something Friday at 4 o'clock and email me Monday mornings like, hey, I'm checking on their status. Well, we leave at 4. So, it can't be processed. We don't work on Saturdays and Sundays. So if you run into that, just email us and say, hey, I'm waiting on this. Is it okay if I submit it when I receive it? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be yes. Um, but how it when it's crunch time, it may take a minute to respond, but just go ahead and send it.
I'm following you. And my second question was just, so now I'm not going through like the Area 5 specialists. I'm doing ITAs myself. And that the point of contact, if I need anything, would be that account ITA at commerce.alabama.gov. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay. And then oh, I don't know. I was gonna say something, but I forgot. It'll probably come back to me. But so now I want to show you the forms that you will be submitting to us. And again, with this, nothing will go through the career centers in your area. Everything will go straight through the ITA email address. Any questions or anything, send it to the email. All right, so the first form that I want to show you is the ITA request form. Very simple. Um, First name, last name, state ID. You all know that's how we operate here with state IDs. The amount that's being requested. If it is a Pell-based program, so long-term, 52 weeks to 104 weeks. If they are receiving Pell, I put that information in, and then the cost categories. Um, I am going to send to you all the most updated cost category breakdown, um, just to make sure that you have it. Um, but for cost category 1, that funding cap is 4,500. For a cost category 2 program, that funding cap is 9,000. And then category 3 program, it is 12,000. So it ranges from your short-term programs to your long-term programs. But I will, even in the guidelines, I think it is. Jess is going to check to make sure it's in the guidelines. But just so you all can have this. But on this form, like I said, it is very simple. First name, last name, state ID, and the amount requested. Um, And then again, once it's completed, you can email it to commerce.alabama.gov. For participants that are in semester-based programs and you're requesting funding for that next semester, you will use your amendment form. And again, all of these forms are in staff online resources under ITA. So everything is listed under ITA. This form looks like a lot. I swear it's simple. The student's name, their state ID. Dannon, yours will be under you for the eligibility check mark. BBWI, yours will be under the adult for the check mark. For number 4, that's where you'll type in that training provider's name and the location of their campus, because as you know, a lot of community colleges have multiple campuses, so that does make a difference. Um, in the location in the campus. Some programs aren't at all campuses. For the curriculum, it is the program. And please, when you put that curriculum name in, put it in as it is listed on ETPL. All of this goes to our ITA processing department. So the curriculums, the campuses, the providers, they all have to be as they are listed on ETPL. Their projected begin date. So that is the date that you've gotten from the provider to say, hey, this program is starting on this day. And then the projected end date. So when that program is projected to end. For number 9, the number of weeks. So that is up to. So if it's an LPN program, it might be up to 70 weeks. If it's truck driving, it'll be up to 4 weeks. And then if it's a long-term program, you put the number of semesters. So that'll be up to the number of semesters. So it'll be up to 4 or up to 3 if it's a 1 year long-term based program. The cost category, again, once you all get that, then you can put that again. It does range from cost categories 1 through 3. And then the up to amount. So this is a big thing that we had to kind of stress. When you're doing an amendment, so you will get your first approval. That's your base cost that we funded. So when you're doing an amendment for these semester-based programs, you're requesting additional funding for that semester. So your up to amount. So say if it was a LPN program that they're needing funding for 3 semesters. So your up to cost would be your initial cost plus whatever amount you're requesting for that semester. So each time you submit an amendment, that up to cost should change. It should not be the cap for the program because they might not need the same amount each semester. So that is always going to be the initial amount plus what you're requesting for that upcoming semester. And then in the comment box, you can put why you're submitting it. You can say requesting additional funding for summer semester. Participant receives, let's say, $3,600 in Pell, requesting $1,800 for WIOA funding. You know, whatever it is that you're requesting should be in that comment box. If there's anything that we have to make changes to, we will put it in the comment box and initial by it. So that way, if you see it, you saw we've made a change, whether it's the up to amount. Normally, that's what it always is, the up to amount. Then you'll sign it, date it, and your phone number. Then you send it to us. If we approve it, we date it, stamp it with the approving signature, and we send it back to you so that it can be sent to the provider. If you have a program and if their participant is going to a short-term program and they've pushed the start date back, if it's at least pushed back by a week, you do have to submit an amendment for it. So just say if they were supposed to start yesterday, which was the 12th, and that provider said, well, I'm going to push it back to the 19th. On the projected begin date, you will put the new beginning date and the new ending date. And then the comment box just say start and end date changed. So like I said, whatever reason why you're submitting this document, put it in the comment box. So that way we'll know what we're looking at when we are processing it. All right. Any questions on the amendment form? And of course, if you do, just send us an email. The next form is the Sorry, I gotta move this out of my way. Is your termination form. So this is going to be submitted to us when that participant has verified with you that they have completed their training program, or if you receive that information from the provider. Again, basic information, uh, how they're funded, whether it's adult or youth, their name, their state ID, the provider, the program, and then the date of termination. So whatever day that you receive that they have finished their program, that's what you put for that date. For the credential, degree, license, certificate, that will be what they received. If it was a certificate, degree, whatever it is, put that there. And then you select if they completed that program successfully or unsuccessfully. Um, so if they, stop going and the provider let you know that, hey, they stopped going, that would be unsuccessful. If it is a semester-based program and within that program, they receive certificates. And on top of that, once they complete it, they get a degree. And let's say they stopped after they received their certificate. Even though they did not finish the program, it's still considered successful because they received a certificate that can be counted as a credential, which is counted in performance. But 9 times out of 10, there are very few that are like that. Welding is, the nursing programs are. So those are a couple that are like that. Most, your decision to successful or unsuccessful is going to be um, stated as such. If you have any comments, you can put that in the comment section. If you have someone that's going through CDL training and they've completed the course and they haven't taken their um, CDL exam, you can put completed course, waiting to take exam on scheduled date of, and put that date. So yeah, if you have a comment, put it in the comment box. And again, your case manager, the date, and the phone number. And again, it's sent to the ITA email. Um, the last document is the failure to report document. So this is going to be used if your participants did not start class. They did not go. The approval was sent to the provider. The provider notated to you that, hey, so and so did not attend on the first day or second day and third day. A failure to report should be completed and sent to us. Then we process it, upload it in, take out the funding, and then that's completed. Sometimes you might have a participant that may want to come back months and months later. That's where suitability will come into play as far as if they're even suitable to receive funding again. Um, so we don't get a lot of failure to reports, but it is a document that has to be completed if you have that case that arises. One last thing before I ask if you all have any other questions. I do want to show you this in Alabama Works. Oh, and I'm on Staff Online Resources. So again, everything, all the forms that I just went through are under here, under the ITA section. So you have your request form, amendment, termination, failure to report, and then the desk aid. But I do want to show you one thing that you have to enter in. And this is only for BBWI, and this is the training justification. Youth programs and youth do not have to have a training justification submitted into Alabama Works. So this is for you, Ben. So whichever participant, and I'm just gonna pull up a participant that I was just working with. No, I don't want to do that one. All right. And so for this training justification, it does have to be approved. So under programs, and then we go into the WIOA enrollment, and under training justification, you will add a training justification. I'm going to click on it so that you can see how it looks. And it's very simple. So it'll have their identifying information at the top. It'll have your office and your area. And then you put the date that you're completing it. So the date will go in. And then the recommended types of training. So if it's skill upgrading, you select that. This one here is other occupational skills training. You can select that. And then you have to add in the occupation. So once you select that, then this is all from ONET, where you're going in, finding that occupation. Once you select that occupation, it'll pre-fill it in. Then you have to find the industry code. Um, Once you find the occupation, the industry code is just the same. And then it'll have the industry code is pretty much more like a description of what the occupation code is. So you'll find that industry code. And again, that's through ONET, and the system takes you directly to it. Here will be your questions that you have to answer in order to justify that participant going into training, which makes up the training justification. So they have several conditions. Whatever condition that pertains to your participant, most should be yes, um, except the number 7, which is the TAA petition pending. So for BBWI, most of your conditions should be yes for that participant. And that's pretty much saying, they need training, whether it's for employment, to upgrade their skills. So you select yes. And then for the training approval, meets training justification requirements, that will be yes. If it's no, if that training justification is no, that means that we cannot put them into training because they are not showing a need for training funds to be issued for them. Once you complete the training justification requirements, the training approval date, that date also has to be put in again. And then it will capture you, whoever's the case manager, as the approving staff, because you're approving and saying, hey, I've done all their eligibility, I've done all their suitability. They are showing a need for training, and now I am approving this information that I'm selecting. And then you go down and you hit save. And then once you hit save, this is how it's going to look in Alabama Work. So it's going to capture it just like it captures everything else when you put in an MSG or their tape results. It captures it the same way.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, okay. And I said one more thing, and I'm sorry because this is a really, really, really big thing that will apply to the both of you. And that is once you've entered in the training service. So I'm going to go to this participant here. So I'm going to go into Wizard so that I can, no, wrong thing. Uh, Yeah. Sorry, that was the right thing.
Hey,
All right,
I feel
so
you, Alicia.
I know it has been one of those days. I'm telling you, these ITAs and stuff is just rolling in like crazy because the semester is ending and beginning at the same time. All right, so just like when you all put in a service, you're only using tabs 1, 2, and 7. And it's the same way for the ITA. Everything is the same when you're entering in that training service, whether it's the 300 or the 416, everything is the same. All right. But here, once you enter in that training service, so we have the provider, the program, here at the bottom, it's going to populate that you have to do the occupational training code. Again, it's all ONET. You all know how to use ONET. It takes you straight to it, but I just want you to see how it looks. So any training service, it has to have this occupational training code selected because once that participant completes that program and you're entering in that credential, it has to have that training service code in order to tie it back to that credential. And also, this is used in performance and when you are doing their follow up to see if they've gained employment in the training area that they received. So here you will select the blue hyperlink. And again, based off what you're putting in, it'll kind of go ahead and pull it up for you a little bit. And then you just select the program and then close the window. Well, once you close it, it'll pre-fill it for you. I'm going to close it, hit close because it's already selected in here. But that was another thing that I did want to mention that I did not want you all to miss. Because again, anything that has an asterisk in Alabama Works, if you do not put an answer in, it'll take you back until something is put in that box. So this is very important because it ties everything into employment after training and the performance. So please make sure you're selecting the right training code for here. So once they do go into follow up, those codes should match if they've received employment in the field that they received training in. Um, any other questions?
So was that under the activities and under the ITA?
Yes. So
Okay.
that training service code, so once you put in your training service code, that's where you'll go. And when you're putting in your regular service codes that you're providing to the participants, it's there, but it's not highlighted because that 300 service code is notating to the system that this is a training program this person is about to enter. So that's why it highlights it. I'm sorry. That's why it puts the asterisk by because now the system is recognizing this as a training service rather than the other services that you provide.
Okay, I'm following you.
Any other questions? I know y'all got it. It's just adding just a little bit extra step, a little bit more paperwork, but it is very, very simple. Um, on the staff online resources under the ITA, we have the ITA training PowerPoint that's also there if you want to reference. Of course, the ITA email, any questions, send it. Um, no question is a wrong question. Send it and we will respond. Whether it's inputting something in or just about suitability, let us know
Can you
so
give
that we
me
can assist you.
Yeah, can you give me just like a quick synopsis of like, let's say that you have someone coming to you, like, you're us, we're gonna do an ITA.
Mhm.
What, like, quickly, like a summary, like what would that exactly look like? I know we went through a lot of things, but is there like a quick step by step you could give me?
Quick step by step. First, when they come in and they, want to say, "Hey, I want to go to training," then the next question will be, "What training program are you interested in?" Let's say they say truck driving. Okay. Do you know what provider you would like to attend training at? If they say no, my next step would be is okay, let's go on ETPL. And then that way we can see what providers are in your area that you would be willing to travel to go to this training program. Um, with that, also, excuse me, um, you want to make sure that they know, okay, so if it is, oh, hold on. Oh, you could do it. Come on. Oh, she's sharing.
On the Alabama Works homepage, if you go down ETPL approved programs, this is where all of the programs that are approved for ITAs are. You can filter it and then you can just look up like by your area or for a specific program or whatever. So if you want to like see it, it'll give you all of the programs that have CDL and how much they are. And these are all approved. So it has to be on the ETPL to qualify for an ITA. So they may look through here and see if there's something near them that they want. Or they may know they want CDL and this is how you can look that up. And then you would do the request form.
Well, before then, um, once they say, "Oh, I want to go here," then that participant should make contact with that provider. We ask that they make the contact because ultimately they're the ones that are going through training, not the case manager. So that they can get the information from the provider, how the classes are set up, the days, the time, because they need to know that before they go in. So they won't, the day they start training, they won't say, "Oh, well, I didn't know this." Well, that was some of that homework that you all had to do, before we requested the funding. So once they contacted, they say, "Hey, this training program is supposed to start this day." I've talked to them. Um, some providers will issue a acceptance letter if they give them that to say, "Hey, this person is going to start on May 19th." All right. So you've gotten that. You've gotten their information. Well, I'm sorry. Before you get that, then you say, "Okay, well, this is what's required for the CDL. You have to take the physical, the drug screening, the motor vehicle report. You have to get your permit. As soon as you get that information, give it to me so that I can upload it in the system." When they give that to you, you do verify that information to make sure that they have the negative on the results, to make sure their motor vehicle report doesn't have 10 to 15 speeding violations, or their license have been revoked 3, 4, 5 times. You all can verify that information too and still base your determination on proceeding based off of that. We do give you all that leeway to do that because that's all a part of suitability for the program. You do let them know that, hey, you have to take what's called a TAPE test um, to show your proficiency, to see if you're, able to comprehend the information that's going to be taught to you in these training programs. Um, once you receive that, then you let them know, okay, once we receive that, we received all the information, you've taken your tape, we've gotten your tape results. Then our next step is to um, do the consent forms. You all do the consent forms when you're enrolling them into the program. So your follow-up consent form, your consent form for oh gosh, I forgot all of them.
They would have already been.
Yeah, so y'all have already done that one. How you get me back on?
You
Oh,
go and share.
okay. All right. In talking about consent forms, there is another, no, yours is up. Okay, you stop sharing. Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to get y'all back to it's still showing your stuff. Okay. All right. So then once you do get all that information, then that's when you submit the ITA request to us. We review all the documentation, eligibility documentation, ITA request documentation. Once we review it, we process the ITA request and we send it to you. When we send it to you, then you submit it to the provider. And then the day the person is supposed to start, either they should contact you or you should hear from the provider that they have started. And then that's when you'll put in that actual start date for their service. So that's generally how it goes. For long
Okay,
term,
so once they're approved, I send everything to ITA at commerce.alabama.gov, the email. Y'all approve it, then I send it to the provider saying, hey, this person's approved. On that start date is when I would go into activities, add the 300 code, and do all that. Would that be
no,
correct?
you'll add the 300 code before
Okay.
when you're
So
getting
as soon
ready to
as,
send us that request.
okay, so should I wait for approval from you before I add the 300 code?
No, you do the approval first because once it's approved, that's how we put the funding in. We have to put the funding in through that service code.
Okay.
So
So,
you'll put the service code in. You will put your projected begin date. For your actual begin date, you won't put that in until you verify that they started training. So let me show you how it looks because I can go in and take this out. Hopefully it'll let me do it. So you'll go to create activity enrollment service. All right. And I'm just going, so disregard the areas, but I just want to show you how it'll pull up. So I'll do, oh gosh, there it is. You select your office. Okay. And then here for the WIOA slash or non-WIOA partner, yes, this is a WIOA and non-WIOA partner program. So you select that box. And then it's going to ask you to select the partner. And then here, you will put the WIOA Title I Workforce Development. All right, once you've selected that, then you'll go to the activity code and select that hyperlink. And you'll select your training service code. And again, for adults, it will be the 300. For the youth program, it'll be 416. 416 is not showing up in this box because the system already knows that this is an adult that's being funded. So I select that 300 service code. And then I'm going to put in a projected begin date. So I'm just going to say 5/19/2025. All right. And then I'm going to go